I spent 3 weeks knitting a pair of tiny dolls, a bride and groom, with hands aching from arthritis. Inside the bride doll, I hid a family heirloom diamond, the most precious thing I own, the one my granddaughter Samantha always hinted she'd love to inherit. But at her lavish 27th birthday party in the heart of Manhattan, with dozens of guests watching, she opened my gift, smirked, and laughed loudly. "This looks so cheap, Grandma." The room erupted in laughter. No one knew the real value hidden inside. No one cared about the love I poured into every stitch. That night, I went home and opened an email with a contract for her wedding to be held at my lakeside home in Vermont, the place where my late husband's ashes were scattered. They planned to gut it, tear down walls, toss out furniture. They didn't need me, just my house. That's when it hit me. If I didn't act, I'd fade away, a ghost in my own life. So I did something no one expected. My name is Virginia Harper, and I'm 76 years old. I live alone in a wooden house by Lake Echo in the quiet Vermont countryside. This house is my life, built from scratch with my husband Harold in the early days of our marriage. From the oak window frames to the stone walls that stay cool in winter, every inch holds memories. Our son's childhood laughter, the smell of Harold's favorite apple pie, and later the heart-wrenching silence after he was gone. After Harold passed, I stayed. People asked why I didn't move to Boston to be with family, but how could I leave a place where every stone in the garden tells a story? How could I abandon the spot where Harold set up a chair to watch sunsets or planted lavender by the porch? I'm not senile and I'm not frail. I just want to live in a familiar space where each morning I can brew tea, open the windows, and watch the lake shimmer like broken glass in the sunlight. Samantha, my granddaughter, was the apple of my eye. I held her as a fussy newborn, told her bedtime stories, and taught her to bake gingerbread at Christmas. When she was in college, I sent her pocket money with handwritten postcards. I thought if I loved her enough, that love would come back to me. A warm smile, a heartfelt thank you. Samantha's getting married soon. She wanted an outdoor wedding by Lake Echo, right in the yard where Harold and I celebrated our 50th anniversary. When she asked, I said yes, my heart swelling. She still remembers this place, I thought. I believe it was her way of honoring us, bridging generations. I decided to make her a special birthday gift, not just for its material value, but to carry the weight of what I hold dear. I hand-knitted a pair of dolls, a bride and groom, complete with a tiny wedding dress and suit, mimicking the wedding invitation she emailed me. Every stitch was a battle against my aching joints. Every detail, the bride's bouquet, her veil, the groom's little bow tie, was crafted with love. Inside the bride doll, I hid the heirloom diamond passed down from my mother. It was the same diamond Harold had reset into a ring for our 50th anniversary. After he died, I tucked it away in a velvet box. Samantha had mentioned it a few times, half joking, saying she'd turn it into a wedding necklace if she ever got it. Why not? I thought. My life's winding down. Let her start hers with something from me, from her grandfather. I wrapped the gift in paper from the stationery store where Samantha worked part-time in college. I still remember her showing off her little name tag and giggling, "Grandma, I get an employee discount." We laughed together at the bakery counter. I thought I was holding on to that memory, whole and beautiful. The morning of her birthday, I took a bus to the city. The party was at a glitzy penthouse rooftop in Manhattan. Lights blazing, modern music pulsing, glasses clinking in a dazzling scene. I wore my emerald green dress. Harold always said it made me look gentle, but in that flashy crowd, I felt like a faded smear, out of place in a sleek world. The doorman didn't recognize me. I had to show ID. My son Gray glanced up from his phone for a second, muttered, "Oh, Mom's here," and went back to scrolling like I was a weather update. I sat quietly in a corner, clutching the gift, still hopeful. I'd rehearse my smile in the mirror, practice my birthday toast. I thought, once Samantha opens it, sees the care I put in, she'll get it. She'll be touched. But you know what happened? She opened the gift, glanced at it, and burst out laughing. God, this is so tacky. Didn't you know we have a wedding registry at Nordstrom? The room roared. I heard Greg's guffaw, my daughter-in-law Jillian's snicker, and the murmurs of the young crowd behind me. My cheeks burned. They looked at me like I was some clueless old lady who'd wandered into the wrong party. No one, not one person asked about the gift. No one examined the dolls. No one found the diamond. The thing I treasured most, placed in their hands, was tossed aside with a mocking laugh. That night, I went back to my lake house. A light rain fell and the wind howled through the eaves. I opened my laptop to write a belated birthday note and found an email from Samantha, a contract for the wedding. They wanted me to sign off as the homeowner and cover the event costs. Attached were designs, tearing down the living room wall, replacing all the furniture, a separate bridal suite, flower-styled Hampton chic. At the bottom, a note, please clear out old items by the 15th. They don't fit the concept. I sat there, hands trembling. I thought I was used to their indifference, but no one gets used to being treated like an obstacle, like clutter to be cleared for someone else's big day. I looked around. Photos of me and Harold, the chair he built for me to read in, the bedside lamp that still felt warm at night. I couldn't let them vanish just because someone wanted a chic wedding venue. I touched the box with the dolls still on the table. The diamond was there, untouched, unseen. They'd discarded it, just like they discarded me. That's when I knew either I stand up now or I'd be pushed out of my own life. They didn't need me, they needed my house. But I needed something more. I needed my worth back. The next morning, I woke earlier than usual. The sky was overcast, the lake a cold, gray mirror. I felt something indescribable, not just anger or hurt, but a spark that had been smoldering, now ready to ignite. I brewed a pot of Earl Grey, Harold's morning ritual, and sat by the lake view. The doll box was still on the table. I opened it again. The white yarn, the tiny veil, the groom's bow tie, all intact. I lifted the bride doll, checking the hidden pocket. The diamond gleamed. No one had noticed, no one cared to look. I opened my laptop. A new email from Jillian, my daughter-in-law, titled Updated Wedding Venue Plans. It included 3D renderings, new color schemes, modern furniture. A red highlighted note read, we need to remove the entire bookshelf, relocate the dining table, and tear down the wall between the kitchen and living room for an open concept. Tear down the wall? Harold built that wall himself. I can still see him cutting each brick, leveling it with a spirit level, grinning when I teased, that wall will outlast our marriage. We laughed all through dinner that night. The bottom in italics, Mrs. Harper, please sign off by the 15th to keep on schedule. If you need help clearing old items, Samantha's team can assist. Old items? And me? What was I to them? A relic to be cleared for convenience? My phone pinged. A text from Greg. Mom, I found a great assisted living place outside Boston. Not pushing you, just something to consider. I booked a tour for Friday. I didn't reply. They were quietly edging me out, no real conversation, no regard for my feelings, just calculated moves dressed up as care. I grabbed my keys, threw on a coat, and drove to the house. I needed to see it, to face what they planned to destroy. The car hummed through a dreary October, golden leaves carpeting the path to the house. As I pulled into the gravel drive, I saw a black SUV parked in the yard. Unfamiliar plates. I'd never seen it before. I got out, unlocked the front door, and stepped inside. Silence at first, then voices from the kitchen. This wall blocks the view. I say tear it down completely. Mrs. Harper's barely here anyway. It's just a light renovation. I walked in and froze at the threshold. There was Samantha, Jillian, and a sharply dressed woman holding a large iPad. They looked up, startled. Virginia, Jillian spoke first, forcing a saccharine smile. You're here. Good morning, I said calmly. I hear someone's planning to tear down my house. Silence. Samantha stepped forward, her eyes softening the tension. Grandma, we're just discussing upgrades for the wedding. You agreed we could use the house last Christmas. Yes, I nodded. I said you could have the wedding here. I didn't agree to you ripping out walls, replacing floors, or throwing out my things like they don't exist. The iPad woman chimed in, Mrs. Harper, I'm the interior designer. The new style calls for minimalism, white tones, natural light, open space. It's better for photos and branding. I turned to the big window overlooking the lake. Light danced on the still water. I whispered, Harold and I saved for 10 years to buy this house. I taught Samantha to make apple pie in that kitchen. Harold built that wall with his bare hands. No one spoke. On the mantel, where our wedding photo once stood, was a mood board labeled Lake Wedding, Hampton's Vibe. The photo was gone. Where's the picture? I asked, not turning around. Jillian shrugged. Probably packed in a box to keep it safe during renovations. After they left, I stayed. I wandered the house like it was my last time. In the garage, I found 3 cardboard boxes labeled Virginia's Stuff in messy marker. I opened one, our wedding albums, Harold's favorite books, and my heart stopped. The knitted dolls. I gave Samantha. Tossed in like trash, the diamond was still there, untouched. My phone rang. Greg, Mom, we need to talk seriously about assisted living. We're looking at putting the lake house in a family trust. Better for taxes. I hung up. They weren't stopping. Every move was planned, cold, and precise. The house, the money, my freedom. They were clearing the way to control it all. And the scariest part, I'd let it go on for too long without noticing. That night, I sat in the kitchen, the one they deemed needs tearing down. The doll box sat beside a cold cup of tea. I didn't turn on the light. Moonlight spilled through the window, faint as a battlefield glow. My mind replayed the birthday party, Samantha's cheap jab, Greg's dismissive glance, the laughter. But what hurt most wasn't the insult. It was the truth that they never saw me as a person worth hearing. I was just the old lady, a resource nearing its expiration date. I opened my laptop. A new email from Samantha with an event planner's invoice. $18,000, 0 cents for flowers alone. Her note, Grandma, could you cover this for me? Love you tons. I stared at love you tons, my throat tight. They knew how to sweet talk when they wanted my wallet. They knew to call me Mom. Dear Grandma, the most important person. As long as I had assets to tap. I stood up. In the file cabinet, I found an old business card for Marcus Ellison, the lawyer who helped Harold and me with our will. I called him at nearly 9 p.m., unsure if he'd remember me. Virginia Harper? Of course I remember. You okay? I need to see you. Urgent. What's going on? I think my family's trying to take everything I have, all while saying it's for my own good. He paused, then said, I'll clear a spot tomorrow, 2 p.m. Bring your house deed and any financial papers. Come alone. I hung up, my heart heavy but resolute. For the first time in years, I wasn't going to keep the peace. I was going to fight. Not out of anger, but survival. The next morning, I went to the bank, where Harold and I had our joint account for decades. I met with the branch manager, Melissa, who remembered us as that sweet couple always saving. When I asked about recent account activity, she frowned. There were 3 failed login attempts from an unknown device this week. Have you used a new iPad or computer? Just my old laptop, I said. Someone might be trying to access your account. She looked serious. I'd recommend changing your password and setting up 2-factor authentication. I followed her advice and left the bank on high alert. Someone was after my money, and I had no doubt who. That afternoon, I met Marcus. He greeted me with a firm handshake, his eyes still sharp despite his graying hair. I told him everything: the birthday, the house plans, the emails, texts, invoices, and the bank. He listened, nodding, jotting notes. When I finished, he said, "Virginia, I've seen this for 30 years. When aging parents have assets but aren't seen as independent people anymore, this is where the trouble starts." "What do I do?" I asked. "First, confirm the house, the bank accounts, they're all in your name, right?" "Yes." Harold said, "I trust you. Put everything in your name. If I go first, it'll be easier for you." Marcus nodded. "Good man. You're luckier than most." Then he continued, "You have three options. 1, give in, sign the papers, let them have the wedding, put the house in their trust. 2, say no, keep everything, and accept being labeled the stubborn one. They might push you into assisted living through legal means." I met his gaze. "And the third?" He smiled faintly. "Sell the house now. Take control of your fate. Strike before they do." I went quiet. Strike first felt foreign to someone used to yielding. But oddly, I wasn't scared. I felt awake. How do I start? "I'll connect you with Jennifer Maxwell, a discreet real estate agent. Just tell her I want to sell fast." I left Marcus's office as dusk fell. The air was crisp, leaves crunching underfoot. I walked a bit before calling a cab. One thought echoed like a distant bell: I won't let anyone write my story but me. That night, I ignored another email from Samantha about a $6,500 0 cents wedding dress and one from Greg about assisted living. Instead, I called Jennifer Maxwell and left a voicemail. "Hi, Jennifer. This is Virginia Harper. Marcus recommended you. I want to sell my house by Lake Echo as soon as possible. Call me when you're ready." I set the phone down and leaned back. The room was still, save for the wind against the windows. But inside me, a different wind was rising, one of resolve from an old woman who was far from powerless. 3 days later, Jennifer called at 10 p.m., her voice brisk yet polite, the kind honed by dealing with discerning, affluent clients. "Mrs. Harper, I visited the lake house. Stunning location, especially the lakeside yard. Rare find. If you're ready, I can list it privately tomorrow, only for pre-vetted buyers." I took a deep breath. "I'm ready." 2 days later, she called again. "I have a couple, a doctor and a writer, looking for a retreat. They'll pay your asking price, no haggling, if the deal stays confidential and closes in 40 days. I didn't hesitate. Done. Signing the transfer papers, my hand shook, not from fear, but from the weight of taking charge for the first time in years. Samantha texted that Tuesday night, hours after Jennifer confirmed the deposit. "Grandma, I heard the house is listed. That's not true, right? You're just bluffing." I didn't respond. The next morning, Greg showed up unannounced, face flushed with anger and panic. "Mom, selling the house? 4 weeks before Samantha's wedding? Do you know what this will do?" I calmly invited him in, poured him coffee. "I've thought it through. This is final." "But you can't. We sent invitations, paid deposits, invited media. The whole family will laugh at us." I looked at my son, a man in his 50s throwing a tantrum like a child losing a toy. I saw what I'd avoided. Greg wasn't like Harold, not even close. "If you think selling my house is the worst thing I've done," I said slowly, "then you've never understood me." "Is this about that stupid doll at the party?" Greg slammed the table. "You're ruining your granddaughter's wedding over a gift?" I set my cup down, meeting his eyes. "No, Greg, it's not about the gift. It's about how you all reacted, laughing, dismissing, treating me like an inconvenience in your plans." "You're blowing this out of proportion," he said, voice softening. "We just want what's best. The house is too big. Living alone's risky." "Too big for who? Risky for who?" I asked. "Or is it that the house is valuable and I, the one who owns it, am in your way?" Greg went silent. I stood and walked to the window. The lake gleamed faintly like an old mirror. Greg, I said softly, I've lived my life for this family. Wife, mother, grandmother. I never put myself first. But I'm 76, and I've learned. No one protects me but me. He stood, face dark. If you do this, you'll wreck our family. Samantha won't forgive you. You'll regret it. I looked at my son, the boy I'd rocked, taught to ride a bike, comforted through his first heartbreak, and saw a stranger. If you think our family hinges on me sacrificing my home, my feelings, my choices, then maybe it's not a real family. He didn't answer. He left, the door closing quietly, but leaving a chill. An hour later, Samantha called, "Grandma, you really sold the house?" Her voice trembled, not with emotion, but fear of embarrassment. "Yes," I said simply. "Do you know, I've dreamed of a lake wedding since I was 12. You promised I could have it there." I said you could use my house when it was mine, but you and your mom planned to gut it like an old stage set. No one asked me. I booked everything. How do I move it now? You're ruining my life. I replied calmly, "You did that yourself, Samantha. I just refused to stand still and let it continue." The call ended in tears and rage, but I felt at peace. That night, I sat in the living room, the one they wanted to open up, looking out the window Harold built. I poured a glass of red wine and hung our old wedding photo back on the wall. I'd reclaimed my house, not by keeping it, but by choosing its new owners before my family could strip it of its soul. The next day, I packed what mattered: photos, Harold's journals, his old slippers. I called a moving company for the rest. When Samantha and Greg got the lawyer's notice about the sale, they bombarded me with texts, emails, even calls from relatives begging me to reconsider. Sent one reply: "You had a chance to listen, you didn't. Now hear my silence." 9 weeks after the sale, I stood on the balcony of my new condo, a cozy penthouse in the hills of Asheville, North Carolina. No lawn to mow, no roof to fix, no one telling me to modernize for the aesthetic. And I brewed chamomile tea. The kitchen was bright, simple, just right. I decorated every corner with photos, paintings, and mementos from old trips. Things once boxed away because they didn't fit Samantha's minimalist vibe. That afternoon, I got a handwritten postcard from the couple who bought the lake house. "We fixed the porch but kept the rocking chair. Every evening by the lake, we think of you. Thank you for leaving the house's soul intact. Visit any time." I smiled, pinning the note to a corkboard beside a 1974 photo of Harold and me moving into the lake house. That night, Greg texted, "Not long, not whiny. I know I crossed a line. Samantha's still mad, but she'll come around. I'm glad you're okay. Can I visit when you're free?" I replied, "I'm always free for you, if you come with an open heart." I don't dream of a perfect family anymore, or dutiful grandkids, or a fairy tale wedding where everyone hugs. What I want is simpler: to be me. For my 77th birthday, I didn't throw a party, no balloons, no knitted dolls. Instead, I woke early, walked to a park near my condo, sat on a wooden bench by a waterfall, and wrote in my journal. I no longer own the lake house, but I've found the home in my heart. And that, I'm certain, is the greatest gift I've ever given myself.